From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your host, the Vegabomber, PJ Dunn, and the film samurai, Carlos Salinas.
Good morning.
Hello, and welcome, everybody. We are back. So, welcome to the Fulfillment Show. I got to my right the film samurai himself, Carlos Salinas. Hello, how you doing, brother?
Hey, brother.
Are you doing well? Are you hanging in there?
Doing great, man. Not bad.
Yeah.
I got a movie fix yesterday. I actually went to the film. I went to go see Empire Strikes Back at the Cinemark.
Ah, yes.
So that's going to hold me over until Nolan's Tenet comes out. Right. I'm like a junkie, man. I got to have a fix. Every once in a while, I start getting, withdrawal. So I had to go. Wore my mask. I was all masked up and everything. So
you had your hazmat suit on, like from
safe.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, like Walter White. Gas mask, those tubes on the side. Yeah, it was awesome.
And also with us is that booming voice behind the camera. We got Kazak. What's happening, brother?
Greetings and salutations, campers. Welcome to DallasOnAir.com. Good to see you guys.
Yes, and
I have been socially distancing at home.
So yes. So if you're watching Fulfillment for the first time, this is the ultimate movie show. If you like talking movies, if you like collecting movie memorabilia, if you just like sitting in the car after the movie, still talking about what you just saw, if you like looking up directors, if you like finding out how many times this particular actor was in a movie directed by a certain person, I think we might be your show for you today. So let me tell you about the topic today, and then we'll get into some of the things that we've seen. So the topic for today will be female directors, some of our favorite ones, and also our favorite female-directed movies. So that will be our topic today. But in our first segment, what we're going to do is tell you what we have recently just seen, and that's what we're getting into right now. There's our wiki. And we're going to start with the film Samurai.
All right, let's do it. Okay, first movie I want to talk about is a movie I didn't see when it came out. It came out in 1990. It's called Miami Blues, directed by George Armitage, starring Alec Baldwin, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Fred Ward. Loved it. I don't know how this movie passed me by because it has just about everything that I like in a movie. He's a psychotic criminal. He just got out of prison, I guess. He's on first time you see him, he's on a plane. He's drunk. He's all beat up. He sneaks they won't serve him liquor, so he steals a little bottle off her tray and he just guzzles it down. Right. He ends up in Miami. He decides to move to Miami, and then right away he's grifting, man. He's stealing money left and right. He meets up with a prostitute played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. This was post Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but she looks so young. She had a real short haircut. But
wow.
Fred Ward is hilarious in it. He plays a Mosley, this cop, and he's got these fake teeth, and he's always pulling out. It's gross, but it's funny. It's hilarious. It's a great performance by Baldwin in this movie. He's really young. He's real thin. He has his shirt off. He's hairy as hell, and but it's just one of those little kind of character driven pieces where it's just just watch this guy go off the rails, and he's just nuts. But in a way, he's kind of real sweet with her. She wants to live a life, the white picket fence, the nice house, and he finds that house for her. It's already furnished, and they end up living there, and she's happy, and she wants to do everything for him, but he still can't stop being a criminal. But so there's this whole. Meanwhile, this Mosley guy's trying to hunt him down, trying to find him. He beats him up, so he wants to get him. He steals his teeth. Anyway, so I won't go into any more with that. That movie, it's on Amazon, watch it. It's hilarious. It's funny. The second one I want to talk about is The Peanut Butter Falcon. I believe this came out last year, directed by Tyler Nelson and Michael Schwartz. Stars this newcomer. This actor he has Down syndrome. I don't know if he's really an actor or they just found this kid and put him in the movie. It's a very naturalistic performance.
Okay.
His name is Zach Gottsagen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Shia LaBeouf comes out in it. Great performance by him. And Dakota Johnson, she's always good in everything I've seen her in. I know she gets a lot of slack because she did these 50 Shades of Grey movies, but she's a decent actress. Of course, she's the daughter of Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson. She's got acting in her bloodline. So the basic premise is he's living in an old folks' home. Bruce Dern is one of the actors who's playing one of the old folks there. He helps him escape because the kid just wants to get out of there. He just wants to be free. He learned about this wrestling school. He wants to go to a wrestling school. Meanwhile, Shia LaBeouf is like a fisherman, crabber, but he's the kind of he's stealing other people's crabs and selling them, and the guy who's stealing from him is after him. So he runs away. They end up meeting up, and then they go on this little adventure. It's almost like Huckleberry Finn in a way. They end up on a raft, literally going down, the river. And meanwhile, Dakota Johnson's character, she's kind of like one of the people in that old folks' home who's in charge of it. So they put her in charge. Okay, find him before we have to report it.
Yeah.
And so they end up all three together. And
that's a decent premise.
It's a fun movie, and if you're a wrestling fan, there's some cool little cameos. I don't know if I should say.
No, don't do that.
Just watch it, and you'll smile real big. The third one I'm going to talk about is The Old Guard. This is a new Netflix original
Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron. I like the premise of this one too. It's based on a comic book, and I think it's Image Comics. Greg Rucka is the writer. He's a pretty well-known comic book writer. He's written Wonder Woman and other stuff. But the premise is these are immortals, soldiers. They've been in every battle from time immemorial, since the beginning of time almost. She probably doesn't even know how old she really is. There's a group of them. There's like 5 of them. Matthew Charnartz is one of them. The other ones I didn't recognize the other actors. But then there's this new girl, Kiki Lane. She comes in. She's not part of them, but she's in Afghanistan, and there's kind of like two separate stories, but they end up coming together. But her story is she's in Afghanistan. She gets mortally wounded and survives. So they have a empathy with other people like them. So they all felt her when she died and came back.
Okay.
And so they kind of look for her and then have her kind of bring her into the group. And she's like blown away. I can't believe this. Why is this happening to me? But she's a badass because she's a very hardcore trained soldier. And there's a really great fight between her and Charlize Theron in this plane that's in midair. So it's just to show you how how skilled she is. But Charlize she's been fighting for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Nobody can take her down.
She's
right?
part of the old guard.
Yeah, the old guard. Yeah. So it's this group, and it's directed. I love the name of this director, Gina Prince by the Wood. She did a decent job. You probably have to imagine that all the action and fight choreography was done by an action director. She directed the interplay and the quieter moments and so forth.
Right.
I think she had done some independent films before, but I guess they turned her loose on this one. It's not the greatest movie. There's some kind of, the music is really weird and out of place at times. But overall, I had a decent time with it. I like the mythology of it. It leaves it wide open at the end for obvious sequel if they want to go that way. So I guess they're going to wait and see. Okay, how popular is this going to be? I dug it. I liked it.
Okay,
pretty good.
Okay, Zach, I'm really interested in hearing about this because I wanted to see this one you're going to talk about, I think.
Absolutely. So I've got 2 for you this week. The first is going to be the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on Bruce Lee called Be Water. It really is a fantastic
Bruce.
Look at the man's entire career, his philosophy, his upbringing in film, his work. Just basically becoming a part of the American zeitgeist. And like it's just being synonymous, with his impact all over the world as not only cinema and television icon, but also just as the man, as the philosopher, as the practitioner of martial arts. It's just a really kind of well done. Not only look at Bruce Lee and his life, but his impact on history.
Yeah.
Because even though even though his film career is short, it's only really 4 films.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yep.
They're legendary films. I mean, the man dies a week before Enter the Dragon comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and but I mean, like I said, it's really kind of impactful with what he left in the world. You know, just everything he did. So it's really kind of a mix of documentary footage, of archival footage, of like I said, family footage. His wife has a great impact on the film. His daughter has a lot of great impact on the making. It's really you get to see behind the scenes stuff of him training people like Coburn and McQueen and
Jabbar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jabbar's
Wow.
Kareem.
Yeah, Jabbar's got a great impact on it. Just it's a really fun and interesting documentary. And ESPN 30 for 30, they really do them well.
They do.
I'm not a big sports guy, but I really enjoy what they do with those 30 for 30s. So do definitely check out Be Watered. If you're
Is this pretty recent release, or is this a replay?
About a month ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It came out about a month ago. It's just been sitting on my DVR and just waiting for me to finally sit down and watch it. And glad I did. So I'm late to the party, but I do believe it's on Netflix now. So either Netflix or Hulu. But like I said, if you have access to ESPN's stuff, do go ahead and check that out.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm a fan.
The second one that I chose. Like I said, I'm trying to expand my cultural orb. I'm trying to get, because I love B films. I really, really love B films. And I chose one that they recently put on Shudder. I chose Blackula.
Yes.
Oh my God. 1972 vampire classic. The thing is made for probably $20.
And a jawbreaker.
Produced by Samuel Z. Arkoff of American International Pictures, who basically just is the B movie king. Roger Corman and then Samuel Arkoff.
Yes.
But like I said, in this film, it's important to history. Yeah. It's important to cinematic history because, again, you're seeing actors and directors and people like that who aren't getting seen on film, and they're taking it kind of into their own hands and getting themselves on film. You have William Marshall, who plays Prince Mamuwalde, who is absolutely just charismatic on screen. Just that big booming voice, that classical training, and he's playing in this ridiculous film. And it is above all ridiculous. It is over the top, out of line, but for the time, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
A perfect drive-in movie, right?
Yeah.
Or some seedy Times Square theater, right?
Yeah, it totally. And it was one of the top-grossing pictures of that year.
Oh yeah.
Spawned a sequel, Blackula Scream with Pam Grier.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a big part of the zeitgeist because, like I said, it's considered a joke, but I don't think it's really more of a joke. Is you just look at people who just wanted to act, wanted to get on movie screens.
Yeah.
And this really brought some really fine actors to the front.
Yeah.
You've got people who are just trying to work, and I mean, they may have these ridiculous concepts, but the presence is there, the acting is there, the skills are there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, this one is important to cultural cinema history, man.
Yeah. I love the
to
marketing
those
of it.
audiences at the time, the black audience, man, they wanted to see themselves on screen.
Absolutely.
In genre stuff like that, like Shaft. They want to see a black badass detective, take it to the man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so black, why not? Shit.
And plus, you get the
love it.
coolest taglines, like his bite is out of sight.
And the score, the score is so good. That 70s funk driving underneath bass beat, it's
there it is.
friggin' perfect, man. So yeah, go back on Shudder, go check it out. It's definitely worth going back and see it. If you love B movies, or if you want to go check out black horror cinema, things like that, is really important.
I think so. And I think you need to, because at some point right now, you're sheltering in place. You can only watch so many Netflix series of your favorite superheroes, whether it's Marvel or DC or Star Wars offshoot. You have to go back and find where this stuff came from, with the originality of just having something creative to say, let's take something that wouldn't normally be in one space and put it in that space, and then just roll with it and see what happens. So this reminds me of kind of like this is the horror version of Dolomite.
It absolutely is. Absolutely.
You can totally see it. Well, I ended up seeing just two things myself, and one was a rewatch, but I'll start with the more recent one. Now, the first thing that I saw was a new Netflix film called You Got the Wrong Missy. I watched this because, number one, I like David Spade, and number two, I just needed something to laugh at because everything's been so serious, right? So You Got the Wrong Missy. The story basically is there's a guy who's trying to move up the corporate ladder. He's got to go to his company's big retreat that they're going to do, and he's single, so he's thinking about who am I going to take. So he has this one date with a girl named Missy, and it's horrible. And the comedian that plays that lead role, Lauren
Lapkus.
Yeah, she feels like she's way over the top, but after you get used to it, you start to settle into her character, and she's basically like a Bean character, but just vulgar and 2000s, if you will. That she's really klutzy and weird and just inappropriate. And then there's another girl that he dates whose also name is Melissa, and she's more of the picturesque, the perfect girl you run into. She reads the same books, she laughs at the same jokes. So the point is that he has to go to this big corporate retreat. So he thinks he's texting the picturesque one, but instead he's actually texting the other Missy, the wrong Missy, thus the title of the movie. And so now she's coming, and now she's representing his better half or his other half at this deal. And that's where all the hilarity ensues. Now, I thought for a moment, okay, I'm not going to really think, I'm just going to watch this because it's David Spade. It's going to be guilt by movie association, right? But I have to tell you, there's at least 4 scenes in this movie where I lost my marbles. I lost it. I went bonkers because the shit was so ridiculous. I had to laugh, and if I didn't laugh, you might question my sanity. So there are these at least 4 scenes where I was almost crying. And usually when I see movies that are funny, they don't make me laugh that hard. I might barely chuckle.
Amused inside, right?
Yeah, I'm amused on the inside. It's more of a guffaw maybe, or a chuckle maybe. But on this one, I just started. I was crying because I was like, no way they just did that. No way they just did that. No way they just did that. That is perfect. So I think of the humor of, remember The Man with Two Brains, Steve Martin? Yeah. There's some physical comedy like that in this one. And sometimes that physical comedy along with the lines is hilarious. So to me, I would tell you, is this a great movie? No. But will it make you laugh your ass off? Yes, it will. You need to watch this film. It will definitely entertain you, and you'll love it.
Don't put yourself above the comedy.
That's correct.
Occasionally you're going to laugh at an Adam Sandler film. Occasionally you're going to laugh at David Spade. If they deliver, man.
They do deliver, yes, and he does here. And then the other film that I watched, it was a rewatch. So I wanted to watch The Town. It was on. It was showing. I figured, I like this movie. So if you don't remember, The Town was based off of a book by Chuck Hogan. It was called Prince of Thieves, and it was based on the bank robberies, if you will, or the thievery in the Boston area. So Ben Affleck here is not only starring in this film, but he wrote part of the screenplay, and he's the director of this film, The Town. So he's showing much chops here. So this film I love. Here's a group of bank robbers. They're going to go rob all these banks. They're pulling these heists. They're way like 4 or 5 steps ahead of the cops and the FBI. But Ben Affleck's character, Doug, decides that he starts to catch feelings for one of the ladies that was held up in the bank that they let go later because they were wearing masks, therefore she couldn't identify them. But he knows what she looks like, so he decides to kind of follow her. And next thing you know, there starts to be this relationship between the two. But the other problem is parts of his crew, Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye here, is a hothead, and he sees that this could be a problem and that she could finger them. And so therein lies the extra tension, plus the FBI getting closer. So this is a film, you just have to watch this film. I think it's well written.
It's a great heist film.
Yes, it is.
Heist they pull off towards the end. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this film came out in 2010.
Yeah.
And this is showing you how Affleck, now you can kind of say what you want about some of the movies like Jiggly and things he was in, and it's horrible, but he's showing good
director,
vision for a director. And then
Argo
the
was
screenplay.
great too, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I thought that was great. So if you haven't watched The Town, or if you haven't watched The Town in a while, watch it. It's just as gripping as it was when it first came out in 2010.
Agreed.
So with that, let's get into our topics of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into our first topic, which is we're going to tell you who our favorite female directors are. We'll start with the Film Samurai.
All right, let's go 3, 2, 1. My first pick was Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola, of course, if you don't know, she's the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola. And she obviously inherited talent from her dad. She doesn't make near the type of movies he makes. Her movies are more subtle, more quiet, more artistic, I guess you could say. Some of my favorites of hers are Lost in Translation, of course. I think that was a kind of her big film debut, Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray. And I like that film so much. I like the quietness of it. It's kind of a film that kind of makes you melancholy, and it's a huge city. It takes place in Tokyo, and there's so many people there, but you still feel isolation in a way. She's there with her boyfriend, but her boyfriend takes off and leaves her alone. She ends up meeting Bill Murray's character, and I love the character of Bill Murray. He's an actor, an American actor who's in Japan to do a commercial for a Suntory whiskey. And there's a hilarious scene in it where the director is giving him instructions, and he goes for like 5 minutes in Japanese, and then the Japanese translator translate what he says and says, say it this way and turn like that. And Bill Murray's like, that's what he said? Like, he said about 50,000 things. And then she's only giving him a little bit of instruction. And so it's hilarious because the way he did it the first time, he does it the exact same way the second time. And then that scene just ends, So it's one of those just slice of life. It goes from one scene to another to another. The karaoke scene, if you've seen this movie, you remember it. It's just a great film, and this ending is really kind of melancholy in itself. It's a beautiful film. I love it. Virgin Suicide, she did, of course. Marie Antoinette. A lot of people don't like this movie, but I like the visual style of it because it's
a period piece, right?
It's a period piece, but they kind of anachronistic music to it. They use the go-go's and modern songs, and it's almost like a music video in a way. And when they're they're bringing out these shoes, and it's very colorful. It's like candy, man. It's like the production design of this film is outstanding. And then she did a quieter film called Somewhere, which I really liked a lot. Stephen Dorff and Elle Fanning. He's an actor. She's his daughter, and they kind of reconnect. But he's living out of the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Los Angeles. But that's another kind of slice of life thing where it's just random scenes. And you either like her movies or you don't, I guess. But I love her movies. The second director I picked was Penelope Spheris. Penelope came out of L.A. She was one of the first directing music videos way back in '74. She came out with these great trio of documentaries, The Decline of Western Civilization, 1, 2, and 3. The first one was about the early punk in the 70s of LA scene. The second one was the metal years. And the metal years, I don't like it as much because all the interviews are very performative by the rock stars.
But no, and I'm going to disagree with you on that because because that was the era of the time.
Yeah,
everything
of course.
was theater, everything was performance.
Yeah.
Everyone trying to make their name. That's the thing about that documentary is that everyone is putting on a show but
nobody gives an honest answer about anything
because nobody's real. Because nobody's real in that film.
Exactly. Right. And then she went back to the punk years in part 3, but I like her early work more than her later work. After she did Little Rascals, I guess she kind of went more commercial. Of course, she did Wayne's World, which was decent. But I liked her early stuff. They're very dark, very raw. If you've ever seen this movie called Suburbia that she did about just a bunch of street kids, punk rockers, just living out of the, abandoned houses. There's a great film that, when I watch her early films, like there's a film called Boys Next Door, it makes you feel like you're watching something you shouldn't be watching. You know, it's just very dark and demented in a way, very exploitation like. She's obviously inspired by, you know, exploitation films of the 70s, you know. But I just like the energy of her early films.
Okay.
Also, the one she did called Dudes is great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I really need to.
It's kind of like
I
those
can't find it anywhere. It kind of annoys me, but
acid films of the 70s, you know,
but
that type of film.
But yeah, Chris Penn, John Cryer has two punk rockers stranded out west, trying to fight for their lives. It's amazing.
Then the last my favorite female woman director is Catherine Bigelow. She's in a way, her early films were very raw as well, kind of like Spheres. If you've ever seen this movie called The Loveless with William Dafoe about this bikers, you know, these leather-clad bikers. It's a great film. Then of course, she did Near Dark, Strange Days. Zero Dark 30 is more, you know, her at her best, you know, with all the budget and all the craft. She makes great films. If you didn't know, of course, she was married at one time to James Cameron. So I'm sure she took a lot from him as far as, you know, sets and design and things like that. But on her own, yeah, she's one of the greatest women directors that I like.
Okay.
So yeah, those are my three.
Awesome. How about you, K-Zach?
All right. For me, I had Penalty of Experience on my list too, so
that's good. That's okay.
So I'm going to kind of redirect that one. But one that I want to talk about is the up-and-comer Greta Gerwig. She, of course, directing out of the box two really not only personal but also really powerful films. You've got Lady Bird, which is kind of a semi-autobiography of her, you know, just trying to get along with her mom and trying to be above her station as a teenager. It's, you know, really kind of deep and phenomenal. And of course, you've got her take on Little Women, which of course looks at which is of course the classic tale of you know, just girls trying to make the name for themselves, you know, as a journalist, and as a family. It's just
in a time when nobody took women seriously, right?
Correct, exactly. Impactful, powerful, and she's kind of an up and comer. The second one that I chose Penny Marshall. Penny was awesome in the fact that she was really an actor's director. She has great and personal studio films. Because you've got Big in there, you've got A League of Their Own, going through. Let's see, you've got Awakenings. The Preacher's Wife, Jumpin' Jack Flash, her really kind of directorial debut film with Whoopi Goldberg. She really not only taps into what really comedy is, but she also really taps into, you know, just how people relate. The dialogue is always believable. The pictures are it's personal.
Yes.
And it's personal, it's heartwarming, it's involving. Penny, and of course, you know, Penny, the sister Gary Marshall, and of course the star Laverne and Shirley, always just knew how to get the most out of her actors, knew how to get the most out of her scripts. You know, she wasn't, you know, like visually stunning.
Sure.
But, you know, if you think of a Tom Hanks film, she's really kind of the person who kind of crafted Tom Hanks.
Truly.
Honestly, with Big and The League of Their Own, you know, two kind of varying roles, but still kind of getting the most out of that actor.
Yeah.
And that was what she was really, really gifted at doing.
She was. And Tom Hanks still to this day gives her credit because of Big, because he was big on the small screen with Bosom Buddies, but this was his opportunity to go to the big screen, make that transition just like Eddie Murphy did when he went from Saturday Night Live to the big screen. And he had that same kind of impact, but he would go a lot further and a lot longer than Eddie Murphy. And he still did turns as in comedic roles as well, because Tom Hanks was a comedian. People don't remember that about him, but he used to do stand-up as well. So for Patty to see that in him and then direct him to get to the Tom Hanks that we have today, it's incredible.
Yeah. The other one that I chose Amy Heckerling. Amy really really kind of did not one but two really kind of perfect looks at decades, because she has Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is absolutely teen culture in the 80s.
Yep.
The music, the mall culture,
the Vans style.
The absolute capture of a California high school.
Yep.
It's a perfect chronicle, and it's still impactful and funny.
Jeff Spicoli.
It may be a picture of a decade, but it's classic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a timeless movie.
Yes, it is.
You've also got Clueless, which she takes the story of Emma, my Jane Austen, and really kind of gives you personal and fun interactions with all these characters. You really just kind of identify with teens in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it is just that picture-perfect look at a decade.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how ridiculous it was still funny. And, of course, you've got National Lampoon's European Vacation. You've got the Look Who's Talking films, Johnny Dangerously. I don't think that movie got the credit that it was due because it was ridiculous.
Hilarious.
But it's still funny.
Michael Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
It's still
the lines in there. It shoots through schools. That's my favorite one. Big giant gun.
You shouldn't hang me on a hook, Johnny. My mother hung me on a hook once. Yeah. So we're sitting here quoting Joe Piscopo. That just goes to show you. That just goes to show you what kind of impact Amy had on films. You really kind of had to like what she did because she kind of not only captured a decade, but she also captured personality on film. And anyone who can wrangle Chevy Chase like she did deserves credit.
True.
Go ahead, bro.
So that's it?
That's it for me.
Okay. Well, I did as well. I'll take my 3, and I'll start with 3, 2, 1, just like the samurai. And with number 3, I got Patricia Jenkins. So what we know about her first is she did a lot of directing of TV shows originally. But what I really appreciate from her the most was a very ambitious move when she did the movie Monster back in 2003, which got Charlize Theron, who we've already mentioned today, again, her nominated, and actually I think she may have even won for that role. And she played, so to take on a movie about a female serial killer who's an ex-prostitute who was really, you could ride the line between was she trying to save her life from being killed or from being raped, or did she have this thing, but to capture that and not demonize her or make her out to be a hero in a situation that obviously is just ugly all the way around, and what she did was
very
murder.
Rough watch.
It is a very rough watch. It's not a movie you can watch several times, but that's how she kicks out when she starts going cinematic. And then I love the fact that what she did with Wonder Woman back in 2017, because this was going to be the first superhero movie in a sense, if you don't count Catwoman, which we don't count that because she wasn't a superhero anyway. But you have to get Wonder Woman right, because when Marsdale created this character, there was a reason why he created this character. Much like when Stan Lee and them created Black Panther, we were missing females and you were missing minority characters. And so to do a movie now that needs to embody what it means to be a strong woman without objectifying her and at the same time making her a man-hater, that's a tough thing to do, knowing that you're going to have people sit in the audience who probably want a little bit of both of those things. But I thought the dialogue that she wrote, she made Diana, especially even as a kid, she made her relatable. Yeah. Right? In a time where superhero movies were caring more about the flash and the bang and the boom, what I loved about this movie is it focused on, okay, who is Wonder Woman and what does she care about? And what does she love? What's her passion? And you get to see that in this film. Now, it suffers from, like all the superhero movies, with a weak third act in the sense that they have to throw out all the jams. But the beginning and the middle tells you everything you need to know about this character. And that tells you that Patty was on the right move. And in fact, she's going to do the new one that's coming out hopefully this year, Wonder Woman 1984. So we'll see if she can make it past the sophomore jinx. I also have Jennifer Kent. There, let's do this. Now, I do like myself some horror movies, and she did The Babadook. And let me tell you what I like about Jennifer Kent, other than the fact that she's an Australian actress and writer who then became a director. And she did the film Nightingale, which we talked about on the show as well. Yeah. But The Babadook. Okay, so the one thing I hate about horror movies is stupid jump scares every 15 minutes, because they can't write suspense. and they can't write something that is spine tingling, so they just go for the easy jump scare. Anybody could do that. But Jennifer Kent, the way she directed this film, their vision for the Babadook, a story about a woman whose husband died and now she's raising this kid by herself, and the kid has these normal fears of the boogeyman, and it turns out there actually really kind of is some of that going on in the film. And so just seeing the horrors that are implied that you see and you build in your mind first before you ever see the Babadook himself. So to me, that right there shows chops, because to do horror movies, what wins is just doing the jump scares and having people naked and kids running going, "I'll be right back, guys. Oh, he's never coming back," right? Well, here you really get a story where you feel sorry for them, right? Because here's a woman just trying to strive without the husband. But then at the same time, here's this young boy who's just super fearful, and she's a mom saying, how do I play this role of protector too and help him while he's super fearful?
Yeah.
And at the same time being spooked. So if you have not seen the Babadook, you are really missing out. If you just want to see people stabbing and stabbing and stabbing, and you think that's a version of a horror movie, you probably won't like this one. You might say, well, this is too highbrow. But really, no, the Babadook is actually worth it. What do you think?
It is a huge psychological thriller.
Yes.
In and of itself. But I mean, the sound in it, and of course, you don't. A lot of it is what you don't see, and just watching the turn of the mom in that film, to not believing to believing to not believing to believing again. It's really just
that performance is unbelievable.
It will mess with
how
your
she
head.
got that performance out of her.
Yeah, she did great with that.
Tribute to Ken as director. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think she is worthy. And then my number one female director is going to be Ava DuVernay. I'm a big history buff, so the fact that she did a movie on one of my favorite people and that ever existed, Martin Luther King Jr., she decided to take the capsule of time when they marched on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So I love the fact that she captures Martin Luther King Jr. right at that time when the civil unrest was just unreal, what was happening. It's interesting how it parallels to today.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that she could get gosh, and I know his name and I'm already forgetting it. I love him. To play, who's playing? Oh gosh, it's Daniel Oyelowo. Yeah, Daniel Oyelowo, I think. And so him playing Martin Luther King Jr. first of all was a great pick, even though he needed to put on weight because Martin was a little thicker, but he does for this role. But I'll tell you why this film's great and why Ava's great. The way she was able to frame a serious topic. And I think one of the scenes that tells you that she's A-level is the scene in the movie where the Hoover and the guys have tapped the phones and they're playing back messages to Coretta Scott King. And she knows now that he's had a moment of infidelity. And this is the scene. If you want to learn about movie making, watch this scene here. You have Martin Luther King Jr. sitting down in all his fame and glory about what he's doing and how people are loving him. And here's his wife saying, "Tell me that ain't true. Tell me that ain't true." And the camera goes around and goes slowly up to Oyelowo's face. And he has to say, it's true, but it's not like what you think it is. And he doesn't say that. He has to do it with his face. But the idea that she knew where to put the camera, where to focus the camera, and then when to pull it in so that you can see this very proud man who's getting a lot of steam right now because of the stuff he's saying, have to admit to something that's absolutely wrong. And that scene's worth it. How she got that out of them was incredible. So if you haven't seen that movie, you need to see it. There's a lot of great scenes in it, but that was the scene that when I watched it, I was floored. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That I don't know how you even do that scene better than that. So Ava DuVernay also did 13th, which is a documentary which you can see on Netflix, which is also very relevant to today. It does a lot to explain the history of that 13th Amendment and what it really says and how it really is interpreted. So this is good in the sense that when you look at documentaries, they're usually just, here's a guy talking in front of books who you're supposed to believe is smart and it says he's a professor of whatever and whatever. What Ava does is she takes all these intelligent professors who speak on social justice, criminal justice, all of this, she puts them in unique places and films kind of roaming around and kind of through things, which you don't usually see in a documentary. Usually documentaries are pretty straightforward, but here she moves them, puts them in different places, and then films them. She doesn't have them all stuffed up and all dressy so they can look whatever. And so just her eye for even just doing a documentary, which is nothing like doing a full-length feature like Selma, she nails that too. So you're almost wondering, what is it that Ava can't shoot? And she was also up to do, perhaps Marvel was talking to her about doing Black Panther. And then, of course, they didn't, they fell out because of creative differences, which I don't think she would have been the best person for that, because she probably would have made that movie like the way Christopher Nolan did Batman, in the sense that it would have been too real for people, and they would have said, well, where's the mystery of the Black Panther and the comicry and the fantasy? Because she would have made it like there's real struggles between Africans and African Americans, and she would have really tied that up even further, I think. So getting who they ended up getting, Ryan Coogler, was probably best, since he was a comic book fan to begin with.
Right, and did she get Wrinkle in Time?
She did do Wrinkle in Time, yeah, and that was just one that wasn't on my list to see, but at some point I'll probably end up watching it just because I'm an
Didn't get a
fan.
very good reception.
It
from what I
didn't.
heard.
It didn't. Which I would expect somebody like her, who's so precise at what she focuses on. She could do that on things that aren't maybe as interesting to other people, and it'll be great because of her focus. But because it's not a universal enough deal, she won't appeal to the universality. Her strength is, let me show you the preciseness of what this actually is.
I think she's ended up going to DC now to do New Gods, possibly.
I think so. Yeah, she's up
what
for a
I
few
heard?
projects,
Okay.
and I'd like to see her do another famous African American, or it doesn't even have to be an African American for that matter, just another famous biopic. Maybe it'd be of abolitionist John Brown. That'd be great to see if she would do a film like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be that. So let's talk about, ladies and gentlemen, our Part B feature on our topic today. There's that wiki. And now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our favorite female-directed films. And we'll start with the film Samurai.
All right, let's do it. One of my favorites, it's been a little while since I've seen it. I rediscovered it recently. I didn't watch it when it first came out, but it's called The Night Porter. It came out in 1971, directed by Liliana Cavani. Charlotte Rampling. This actress is just like one of the greats. And in this movie, man, it's probably a really tough film to make for her. But it's basically about a chance meeting with her in a hotel. She meets this officer, a Nazi officer, who basically tortured her in the camps, and she resumes a relationship with him. And it's it's really disturbing, but it's so well crafted. It's very dark and bleak, but it's a very unique film. But Charlotte Rampling, just her performance in that film is just incredible. Liliana did an amazing job on that movie. The second one I picked was American Psycho. Mary Herron. This came out in 2000. Of course, probably everybody has seen this movie. It's probably one of the best satirical looks at the Reaganomics era, 1980s. You know, these Wall Street bros, these financial guys. Christian Bale, of course, plays Patrick Bateman. This is based on the book by Bret Easton Ellis.
Yeah.
The Bret Easton Ellis book is very, it's not really, well, maybe I guess you could take it as satirical, but I think he took it more as like a psychological look at this particular person, and it could have gone way darker, because the scenes in the book are way more graphic, go into a lot more detail than the film. The film is a unique take on it. I thought Mary Herron did an excellent job on this film.
Yeah, it's a really effective horror film.
Yes, actually,
absolutely.
almost like a slasher. You almost look at it that way.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And then you look at it as, is this guy really, did these things really happen or not? It kind of leaves it open to you to interpret it in each way. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, she gets a great performance out of Christian Bale on that, and of course the scene with him and Jared Leto is still phenomenal. You'll never hear Huey Lewis the same again.
Right? Exactly. So good. Yeah, I've watched that movie so many times. And then the last one I picked was Strange Days. This came out in 95. This was Catherine Bigelow. Stars Ralph Fiennes, Angela Bassett, Juliette Lewis. This movie is wild. And I remember the first time I watched it, I didn't see it in theaters. I watched it at home, and I was just kind of blown away. Like, wow, this is something unique. I've never seen a movie quite like this. And a lot of it is kind of parallels with what's happening now. The police are very brutal. They're fighting with, it's racial riots and things. But the theme throughout the movie is kind of like, okay, memories. They deal in these recordings of people's emotions and memories, and they deal it like drugs almost. And Ralph Fiennes plays this real sleazy character, Lenny Nero. It's something to see if you've never seen this movie. I won't say too much about it. It's better to just watch it. Raw going in, not knowing anything about it, and to just experience it. You know?
Yeah, it's a really terrific film noir film.
Yeah,
film noir. It's a detective movie. To be honest with you. But like I said, there's a meta storyline, and then there's a minimal storyline.
Yes, exactly.
And it
works very well.
It's written really well, and of course, Angela Bassett plays an amazing ass kicker in it.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yes.
She's a tough ass. Yeah, I love it.
Juliette Lewis is the femme fatale. It's great, man.
Tom Sizemore.
Oh God.
Oh man.
They were both in. Was it Natural Born Killers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yes, sir.
Those are my three.
Yes, sir. KZ.
All right. So I tried to choose ones that we, by female directors that we didn't go over.
Okay.
The first that I wanted to talk about was Jodie Foster's directorial debut. It's called Little Man Tate. Little Man Tate. Little Man Tate was one of the films that really got me interested in independent film. To be honest with you. Wow. It's an intimate story of a mom raising a genius child. And the pressures of because she's his intellect terrifically exceeds her, and so she sends him off to what she thinks will be kind of better form, but all he wants to be is just kind of a normal kid. And it's really kind of running the line of not only being the pressure of being a single mom, but also the single mom of a genius child.
Whoa.
And it's such a and it's a really kind of touching portrayal of of motherhood, of being a smart kid, of being and being just having the pressure of being the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
I wonder if this was kind of almost autobiographical in a way, and that probably Jodie Foster was a very precocious child. I mean, she started her career as, making movies when she was like, I don't know, 8, 10 years old. I think she was always very smart. I think she went to Harvard or something. But yeah. That's maybe why she picked this project. Yeah,
it is a great intimate little film. To be honest with you, and Diane Weiss is great, has a great supporting role as a counselor. But it's the interaction between Jodie Foster and the kid who is just absolutely electric on the screen as this genius child. And of course, it talks about other genius children, things like that. So yeah, I have to believe you're right that Jodie chose this particular piece because of what she went through as a kid. The second one that I chose was one that I saw recently, and it is We Need to Talk About Kevin. This one is a mind blower. Directed by Lynn Ramsey, written and directed by Lynn Ramsey, and it's a look at Tilda Swinton as a mom of, for all intents and purposes, a psychopath. I mean, I don't think that's a spoiler. It just basically it is an awful child, and the relationship between this mother and her trying to raise a family around this awful kid, and the portrayal that of the kid both as a younger child and as a teenager, it's just chilling.
I consider it a horror movie.
It is absolutely a horror film. It is a psychological horror film.
Yeah.
But I mean, just this kid about to do this very, very, very bad thing, and how he builds up to that. It's almost crushing. To see the film. You have John C. Reilly, Tilda Swinton, who is in almost every scene of the film because it's really her film. But the kid that they play off of, it's just heartbreaking to watch the whole thing. But it's such a good horror film, and of course, kind of her recovery in that. I don't want to give anything away in it because of.
Yeah, Lynn Ramsey's a very strong director. She directed Joaquin Phoenix in a movie. I can't think of the title right now, but that film is very dark as well.
Let me see if I can find it here real quick because.
You Were Never Really Here or something like that.
Okay.
I think that may be the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the director in it just really kind of takes a really tough motherhood role and just, it really plays up the horror of it. Just the worst possible case scenario of what you do with a terrible child.
Mm-hmm.
My final choice was a short film, and that's airing on Disney Plus right now, and it's called Bao. This one, it's very much the opposite of what I was just talking about.
Bao?
It's directed by
B-A-U.
B-A-O.
B-A-O.
It's directed by Domi Shi. It's the story of a mother who basically raises a dumpling as a child, and of course it's a metaphor for her actual kid. It's a really effective 10-minute short film on motherhood and growing and things like that. But the reason why I chose it is because I think the reason why I chose it because Domi Shi is kind of the start of an initiative at Disney to get women more involved. You have Jennifer Lee, who is now the head of creative for Walt Disney Animation, who is also the director of Frozen and Frozen 2. You're really kind of seeing a look at Disney, because animation has been a man's game for a long time. Mm-hmm. But you get projects like the Secret Life of Achilles. You get Persepolis. You get things like that. Just these really effective kind of animation projects. And now you're seeing women and minorities and things like that now trying to take their step into that. And I think Disney is actually actively trying to make that effort to reach out to those communities and reach out to those filmmakers and get them seen. So I have to give credit to Disney for, looking at the zeitgeist and saying, okay, it's time to give these people their voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction for Disney, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Creatively, anyway.
Yeah. And as many years as they've been putting out content, if they don't want to be seen as being stuck in the past with songs of the South and stuff like that, they're going to have to.
They're going to have to own. They have to own the history, but now it's it's an opportunity to give filmmakers that haven't been seen before a chance to be seen now on
different voices
on a big broad spectrum of projects.
That's absolutely right. All right. Well. I think I kind of said some of mine earlier, so I'll try to pick some different aspects. But at number 3, in terms of female directed films, is The Babadook. And I'll just simply say, since I've said a bit about it before, if you want to understand how to create a composition that shows dread without it being beaten over your head and obvious, this is probably a case study in how you would create the psychological underpinnings that would make you unnerved, even at the sound of hearing a door shut in the background, because you're so focused on whatever she's aiming the camera at the moment. And so when you think about The Babadook, again, I couldn't stop watching this film or talking about it because I just really appreciated the artistry that was here.
You make me want to watch it again.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And I think one of the bigger criticisms people say was they thought that the kid was written a little too annoying, but they're trying to show, really what she's trying to show is how unhinged this kid is, how unhinged she is, and then how she finds herself in a serious position of trauma and grief at the same time. Yeah. So now you wonder, is this really, as you said earlier, Kazak, is this really in my head or is this really happening? So there's this juxtapositioning and back and forth. And I love the use of black and white as a stark contrast. When she shows, here's what a room looks like in a modern darkness, and then here's what it could look like if there's something coming in from the right, if we put some lighting over here to the right across the room, right? This is the stuff that your eyes do to go, oh, is it coming from there? Is it coming from there, right? So you get all worked up into it. So
that's brilliant when the director can do that with you.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, just like, blow your mind.
And the actress that they chose for the mom just really, they push boundaries with her.
Yeah, they did.
Because you go, okay, I can see why you're doing this, but you're a terrible person.
Yes.
And but you see why.
Yes.
So it's a really kind of huge piece of understanding in that piece.
It is, and they leave it she leaves it ambiguous and on purpose so that you kind of almost fill in your own mind as to what was justice and what wasn't justice in that situation. And that's always good when it leaves you like that. Then your head's kind
Essie
of messing
Davis is that actress. I believe she's from New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
She was in that recent The True History of the Ned Kelly Gang, who played his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And man, she's a strong actress. And
Yeah.
even she did a series called Miss Fisher's Mysteries, where she plays this very charismatic society woman who's a detective.
Sure.
And like a very strong role. She has no man in her
Mm-hmm.
life, but she's kind of got this crushing on this detective. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very fun and entertaining show if you've never seen it.
Yeah.
I think it's on Netflix.
Oh, I believe it. For my number 2 female-directed film, I chose a more recent film, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Now, several reasons for this. Number one, a documentary had come out before, and it was spectacular. So I was thinking, how on earth is someone going to have another movie that everybody's going to basically compare to the original one and say, oh, you just copied this, you just copied that. Well, Marielle Heller said, I can do it. And she did it the most intelligent way. She said, let's don't focus on necessarily just Mr. Rogers. How about the people that he engaged and the people he interacted with? So she took it to a human level. And I think when you see female directors, they're really good at showing the relationship and the causality of what creates a good relationship, what would tear up a good relationship. And so here she decides to take one of the best actors, Tom Hanks, who we know can play this role in his sleep because Tom Hanks is a good guy. But how do you make that interesting? And so focusing on the writer who was assigned to go ahead and write a story on him, and him being a pessimist and negative and having father wounds, was the perfect way to say, let's not only just talk about Mr. Rogers, let's show the relationships that were built and how strong he built them and how they sometimes came from places you wouldn't expect, right? Because you expect them to want to build great relationships with kids. Kids want to be entertained. You pull out puppets. Of course, kids can love you. But what about adults who are already hard and fast into what they believe, and they've had bad experiences, and they don't buy Mr. Rogers? Or do they? So for Marielle Heller to take that angle for that movie, I don't know. I didn't expect it. I had some of my friends knock it. Oh, they didn't even focus on Mr. Rogers. Well, yeah, we already had a documentary that did that. So I'm okay that they showed more of the guy that he was working with, and showing how he went from bitterness to being better in terms of saying, okay, bad things happen.
I think it's a creative way to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, super creative. And then, of course, number 1, I love Ava DuVernay. So since I already talked about Selma, then I'll just say 13th is one of my favorite films from her, or I'll put on this list. And so 13th is a documentary that is talking about the 13th Amendment. And so for those who are maybe not familiar, the 13th Amendment was used to abolish or eradicate slavery. However, it also had a hitch at the end of it. And so this film discovers and talks about how the 13th Amendment, while it looks like it freed the slaves, it also said something else, which is if you can criminalize them, then slavery's okay. If they're free, you can't enslave them and make them be your slave. But if we can put them in jail, you can now lease them out through the convict leasing program, and you can now still keep them enslaved, but through there. So it's written into the 13th Amendment, right?
It's insidious.
So she gets all these brilliant people, professors, civil rights activists, lawyers, all these folks who teach it, professors, sociologists. And again, it's wonderfully shot, and these people are telling the story of how when they taught a class on this, here are some of the things that came up, and then they showed nice graphics showing the prison, the school to prison pipeline. It discovered that. Yeah. It showed you the graphics on the incarceration, how it's jumped from 2000 from 2007 all the way up to 2020, how the numbers, how ridiculous, how we incarcerate. So it has everything you want from a historical standpoint, from a statistical standpoint, and then from the people who have to teach it, the people who have to abide by it from law. Brian Stevenson is one of the featured people. And really help us understand why maybe we have some of the issues today, because the people who read it realize, oh, no, this didn't really get rid of what we think it got rid of. It just said we needed to move the shell game around. We could do it a different way. And that's what we see. So racism never disappears. It just mutates. It transforms into something else. And then you can even use laws like they used back then that were explicit. You can use laws still to this day, by the way they're interpreted, to go ahead and still do some things, and it would be legal to do it. And so they bring all that to the forefront. So if you haven't seen a good civil rights, not necessarily civil rights, but maybe even just justice reform, if you want to really look into how the criminal justice system actually has affected America as a whole, in particular disproportionately African Americans, it's pretty eye-opening. So I think one of the best stories in it is of a kid who basically, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they basically said, listen, you can't afford a lawyer, so here, we'll give you one. And that lawyer basically said, here, just take the plea. And he's like, but I didn't do it. And they're like, doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to convince them. Just take the plea. It'll be 5 years instead of 15 years.
Jesus.
So this innocent kid takes the plea because he doesn't know any better. He thinks that's the only thing he can do. That's what his lawyer's telling him. So he goes in, and then he goes in as an innocent kid in with real thugs, real killers, and what they do to this kid.
And how many times that?
And how many times that happened. And so it's a very sobering, but it's something that you need to know, because we can't fix ugly if we don't know ugly exists, right? Right. Or else it comes back as the Babadook. So, ladies and gentlemen, that would be our film study. So what about you? What films do you like that were created by women? Maybe we didn't talk about it, or maybe it was directed by, or maybe they were a co-director, or maybe they did the screenplay. Why don't you write down in the comments below what those are, and then we'll engage with you.
Yeah.
So from there, let's go into our shout-outs as we end the last segment of the show. And so who are you shouting out to?
All right, shout out to Matt, my son, and Nicole, my daughter. They're both in lockdown down there in Austin area. Okay. My cousins out in California, Stella, Joelle, all my cousins out there, George and Martin, all of them, and all my buddies on Film Twitter. Love you guys. Movie recommendations, the stuff you post about movies.
That's right.
Gets
love
me
you,
excited.
Film Twitter.
I just love it. Love it all. I consume it every day. It's addictive.
Yes, it is. Kazak.
Shout outs to, of course, our counterparts on the first and third Sundays of the month. That would be Eddie Medina and Cole Houston, who host the Rancourt Pit, Isle of Toys, and Figments. They're going to be taking next week off, so like I said, we won't have our usual Talk Nerd to be Sunday lineup, but they should be back for the first Sunday in August. We're just kind of taking a break on that. I do also want to go ahead and give shout outs to the Ragnarok crew, which Clay Harrison, Adrian Harry, Rob Irvin, and Devin Pike. Devin celebrating not only his 50th birthday this month, but also beating cancer for the third time. Like I said, we got to go enjoy with him and celebrate watching Flash Gordon as a drive-in. So that was fantastic. If you check out Drive-In Carburet, CARBRE, that's something like that. But like I said, they're doing drive-in movies every week.
Cabaret, it's Cabaret.
Cabaret with an R in there.
All right.
But they're doing drive-in movies every week out in Richardson. I know they just, I think, did Labyrinth. We've had Flash Gordon.
Wow.
So we're going to get some really kind of cool stuff. I know they're actually going to do some terrific B-horror movie stuff coming up. So looking forward to that.
Super. And so my shout outs will go to Horror Mike, Sean Presley, Lauren Wiedauer, Harry Thomas, Troy Ross, Michael Paul, Daniel Meza, Mad Mel, of course, Eddie Medina, and of course Cole, and then Stephanie Crane, who watches this, and then Scott Laney and Sandra. And so for that will do this edition of the show. We'll be back not next Sunday, but the Sunday after that, which is the 26th. And, well, we'll hold back on what we're going to talk about, but we'll see you then. But until then, I'm out. And
All right. Sayonara.
And see ya. Peace.
Wear your mask.
Wash your hands.
Clean your nose.
Don't touch your face.
What's wrong with your face?